Hello viewers, welcome to my channel Science Technology. In today's show, Rocket Monday, we're going to talk about Dream Chaser 2023 update. So let's dive deep into it. So this puppy is a dark puppy, as in dark horse. So basically they did a side entry. Now be mindful, the company name has changed. So it used to be Sierra Nevada Corporation, now it is Sierra Space. So it's a bit hard to track it down. However, what the original idea was, the Sierra Nevada Corporation is going to build a 7-crew spacecraft. Basically take space shuttle and just yeet the payload side of it. Meaning space shuttle was two things in one, a giant payload carrier plus a crew capsule. So what if you just yeet the payload? You're like, hey, if we want to send payload, we're going to send it using normal rockets, and we want to send crew, we'll use a different car. So it becomes a small like this. Yes, it can carry that many people. And be mindful, this idea is not new. Back in the early days, as in like just late Cold War, USA was wanting to build a space station, which they used to call at that point in time Freedom Station. This puppy basically. Now, like, wait a minute, this looks similar to ISS. Well, what they realized very early on is that this is going to cost too much, meaning way too much money. People were not willing to pay that much. And right at that time, Soviet Union went poof. So that created an issue. Too many rocket scientists were there, and if they were absorbed by basically Arab nations, they will have quality ICBM technology. To protect against that, they were like, hey, what if we build this new station and give them jobs? Rather than going to Arab nations, what if they did job in Russia itself? And that's how Russian astronauts have that whole system surviving rather than decaying away. It survived. So that's how ISS came to be. Now, during that time, NASA was looking into multiple concepts. So they did had an ancient concept that was followed long time ago from Air Force to NASA, and NASA was developing HL-20, this puppy. Yes, this is a physical mock-up. They actually built it. They did design review. A lot of testing was done. Like conceptually, this puppy was like thoroughly tested, meaning they knew this puppy will work. They just had to work out the kinks, so to say. So they realized this, they call it personal launch system for NASA, and the main selling point of this design is that this puppy is gentle, meaning when you're coming backward, like launch is very brutal, don't worry about that, launch is brutal, but when you're coming back to Earth, this puppy will never exceed 1.5 G, and be mindful, that's the maximum. So there is a very good chance you may not even exceed 1 G. What does that mean? That simply means if you are doing any sensitive experiments which is sensitive to gravity, and that's why you are doing it ISS, it won't be become lol the moment you try to capture the result, because at the moment you crash it through the atmosphere, the g-forces become as high as 3 or 4G, which generally has a tendency to poofing any sensitive system. Consequence, your experiments become bah. At best case scenario, just keep experimenting there. You can rarely bring it back. And there was a serious thought put into the fact that what if somebody gets injured in ISS? Like, again, people are there, things can go wrong, things do get wrong. Whenever you have human, things will get wrong. In those sort of scenario, if you really need to recover someone, like send them to Earth for surgery and all that, how the heck you going to do that? You can't put strain on their body, injured body. So in those sort of scenario, having this 1.5G is mild enough where it's like we can actually try to save it, and this will land on a runway, so you don't have to go to ocean and yeet them out and then hope that surgeons can perform in a shaky sheet. So this gave them a lot of option. So like concept is surprisingly well thought out, well designed, so to say. So this is a dark horse. So what's the current situation? Current situation is Dream Chaser Cargo System, as in DCCS. This puppy is basically funded by NASA for ISS commercial resupply system. Now NASA always have learned from their mistake, and the biggest mistake they made is had one point of failure. So they have realized very early on that relying only on SpaceX is still one point failure. If SpaceX goes boom, they're done. So to make sure that never ever happens, they did hope that Boeing would be that system and SpaceX would be the backup to Boeing, but it turns out SpaceX became a thing and Boeing just became lol. So they really wanted a backup of a backup. So this company was working in the background and they're like, hey, money, get something done. Now, expendable cargo module is added behind it, the shooting star as they call it. That puppy also has power. So when this thing is going, be mindful, it's a cargo variant, does not have people inside. So it does not have that kind of power requirement, but it does have enough power for communication and all that jazz, thermal management also. So it can do that. As of now, when I am talking about this, they have already put all the heat tiles, they have already tested the wing loading, they have already tested the thrusters, all of those things have been done. And while I'm making this video, there is a very good chance it's already in a thermal vacuum test or going to be in thermal vacuum test. So once that puppy is done, that will be the final stage. They have already done the testing of electrical system and all that. Almost everything is done. So they should be able to launch, if everything goes according to plan, Q1 of 2024. That's the optimistic launch date. So this is the current condition, meaning it's already done, built, heat tiles, everything put there, wings tested, everything, rocket thrusters, all of them are tested. They're good, they're going. So what about the crude version? That was the original idea from NASA. So the company did something very clever. They put so much effort into it. They were like, hey, what if we just kept it running in the background? Sometimes it is a really wise idea. So when they did that, that created them benefit. They never stopped the work on this puppy. Dream Chaser was always worked on, always. Like there was no point where, of course, the number of employee working on Dream Chaser went up and down, but they never stopped it. Benefit of that is slowly they were chipping away at it. Now, of course, it's not ready yet, but it will be. Once they get more data from the cargo missions, this puppy would be expedited as of now. And during this whole long development period, they developed interesting technology. The technology is that they have a fast and furious thruster. So the thruster that you see, it is running on high test peroxide, meaning running on H2O2. Now, they have 3 gears on that. So first gear is low. So if you want to gently move things around, basically fine tune corrections, going to docking and all that, subtle things. So they have gear number 1, that is low. Subtle, gentle, no boom bam bam. Then they have a mid if you want to put some oomph into it. Okay, they're good, they're good. But they added something extra. The extra is if you are using H2O2, when it decomposes it, it gives you insanely hot steam. Well, that's good and all. That's not amazing. It gives you a lot of free oxygen. We have free oxygen. What can we do with it? What if we added RP1 to that puppy? Now we have a full-fledged rocket. So you go from monopropellant in 2 gears, so basically gear number low, gear number high, and then when you really need to oomph, like why do we need that oomph? You need that for deorbit burns, you need that if you really need to accelerate the space station or cause what we call DAME, debris avoidance maneuver. So in those sort of time, you need more oomph. Now, how the heck a tiny thruster that is running on monopropellant can do that? Well, it can't. Flat out, it cannot. To solve that, it needs to go into bipropellant design. So thankfully, the fuel source used has spare oxygen. So they're like, what if we added rocket propellant to that? It still gives you that quick response. And RP1 is surprisingly easy to store. So that's also another benefit. All things considered, it allows them to have a really unique way of achieving some amazing results. So they have very gentle system, mild system, and brutal as system. They have been developing that on the background slowly. They got it now. Now this also allows them some leeway during ISS reboosting phase, and the wing part that you see will not be folding on a human system. The reason for that is human system will have emergency escape system. So they cannot have the emergency escape system, oh, we're gonna jettison the capsule and basically fairings and then we're gonna yeet out of there. Yeah, that's not gonna work. So for that reason, the crude variant will always have no fairing. It's gonna be naked. It's gonna be like a giant space shuttle put literally on top of a rocket. That's how it will look. And there is another aspect of it. When they were designing the system, they were selling this idea that you can just land it anywhere and people can get to it. But here's the deal, that was never possible with space shuttle or even with a tiny version of Boeing variant, that X-33, I think. This puppy basically. It's been flying for multiple years. Like the longest it has stayed in space is around 900 days. So you will notice that people are wearing hazmat suit. Now you're like, why? Well, the thrusters these puppy use are hydrazine, if I'm not mistaken, and those puppy are toxic, as in so toxic that even if this puppy lands and if it was using that mix fuel, yeah, nobody would be allowed near it. So that creates a hassle. It's like, yeah, it landed, now we are waiting. So to solve that, this high test peroxide allows them much more leeway. So that's why people can be around it, even though if it just came from, space. And RP1 is relatively safe, toxicity wise. So that's why crude version does have some unique abilities. It has emergency escape system. It does have the ability to just go and dock to it. It does not have the issue of Crew Dragon where it's gonna be like, landing in the sea, then you're gonna collect it from the sea, then you're just gonna hope that if you need to do something emergency based, you can do it easily. Here it's like, dude, runway near you, quick delivery. So this is the crude version that they are working on slowly behind the scene. Then we come to the critical aspect. You are building a tool. What's the use of that tool? Like, for example, Starship. Does it have any use? Practically no. So why the heck SpaceX is building it? There is this tiny project, you may have heard of it. They are working in the background, known as Starlink. Yeah, they need basically giant satellites for Starlink to work economically. For that reason, they need a giant ass rocket. Starship. So they are intertwined. Same has to be done with here. You are building a super duper expensive system. If there is no demand for it, it will go poof. To make sure that they have that, they lucked out, so to say. So NASA is paying for cargo mission because Boeing was just like, lol. So NASA is really looking into other things. It's like, hey, anybody else? Come on. We do not want to rely on SpaceX only. So they're like, hey, we are here. We like, you rejected us, but we are here. So that's there. And basically SpaceX does have this issue that the design system was, again, this is SpaceX very early on. So they did not have that sort of scope, that sort of balls. So they were like, hey, dude, we're just going to give you a crew capsule. Be happy that we can do that. And they did. But it did not have enough oomph where it can do reboosting. They did thought of like creating an upgraded variant where they can do the reboost. That has not gone anywhere. So NASA does need something that can do reboosting. So in case of a Putin going poof, ISS does not become poof. And on top of that, there is another player in the market, that is Orbital Reef. Now, Orbital Reef does have some deep pocket, like actually just one individual with ludicrously deep pocket known as Jeff Bezos. So Jeff Bezos is gonna take care of this puppy, and this has enough of a business viability plan that this puppy will be cost positive. And other players which also have big pockets, as in Boeing, they are investing into this, but they need a craft, and Blue Origin's craft is way behind schedule. Can it be done? I do expect it to be done, but human rating that puppy will take way too long. So they are piggybacking on this puppy. And that's why in their animation, even though the docking adapter is international docking adapter, meaning is the same with Boeing variants, it's same with the Sierra variant, it's same with the SpaceX variant. They never showed in any SpaceX craft in this puppy, Dragon capsule basically. So they are sorted, meaning from a customer point of view, they are sorted. There are more than enough people. ISS is ready, they're paying, and for their crude variant, let's say, because ISS is reaching its retirement point, so in space NASA won't be like, okay, big bill. So this puppy will take care of the crude part of it, and majority of the development is already done. And once they get actual space testing, it will be like, we good. So customer are ready, and having the land anywhere ability and the fact that you can just go to the aircraft that has just landed, that opens up some avenue. That avenue has money into it. So they're sorted from a destination point of view, as in like, okay, you built a craft, what's the use of it? They're sorted. They're like, we good, sir, we good. Then we come to the final mission that's supposed to happen. It's CRS-2. This is all whole hope rides on that puppy, meaning this puppy has to work. If it does not work, poof. So yeah, that's all has to work. Now, why the heck it's such a up in the air? Well, problem is rocket is the weak link as of now. People know what Sierra Nevada can do, and the company has enough experience, enough talent behind it that people are like, they're gonna be sorted out. Of course, there will be delay, they won't be as cost effective, but they sorted it out. Like, they're gonna be good. But what is not good is Vulcan Centaur rocket. That rocket is way too late. It should have already done multiple missions, but it's way too late. And primary reason for primary delay was basically the engine was delayed. Engine was coming from Blue Origin, and Blue Origin delayed that puppy like there is no tomorrow. That caused primary delay. Then we had secondary delay when they were doing testing of the upper stage. Yeah, it went boom, and turns out there was two primary reasons why it went boom. First, what would have happened if they took the same design and launched it? Most likely it would have went into orbit without too much issue. They were stress testing it, as in like putting it too much unnecessary strain. Of course, as a good engineering practice, you do that, but does mess up your result. Like, was it a fault or you pushed it beyond its fault? And then they noticed there is a problem with the dome, where a dome welding was not strong enough. So they have reinforced that. So second stage had to be rebuilt. It was a minor building issue. It was not like, whoa, we have to redesign it. It was just like, oh, this part is a weak part, let's reinforce this. So that caused extra delay, primary delay and secondary delay. However, as of now, this puppy is in the launch pad. It has been fueled, and this puppy has gone through what we call static firing test. So things have looking up, hopefully. So at this point in time, everybody is hoping that once we have the second stage loaded and the first mission of Vulcan Centaur going successfully, we should be on track. The only thing odd about Vulcan Centaur is like its reliance on solid booster, which I do not like personally, but like, okay, we should have something. And there is a benefit that if, let's say this does not work, let's say the first launch goes kaboom and they had to ground the system, because of the fact that they can switch to other rocket, they will switch it. But be mindful, switching is not super easy. So even if they have to choose, let's say Falcon 9, which is another human rated system, it will still take them like 4 months to 6 months. But it can be done. They won't be permanently grounded. So if they're like, they're ready and they're like looking into it, something bad happened and they're like, dude, it's going to take 1 or 2 years, they at that point they will be like, okay, SpaceX, pick up our phone. So let's see what happens with CRS-2, or at least -1 first, first trial mission of this puppy, and then let's see what happens after that. So this was my presentation on Dream Chaser in 2023. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst a friend. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free. And as always, thanks for watching.